Hi, welcome to the From Zero to Streamer, the Social Media Journey podcast by HK Jewel. In this podcast, we dive deep into the world of social media streaming, unraveling the step-by-step journey of becoming a successful content creator. Each episode focuses on interviews with seasoned streamers, social media experts, and influencers who share their stories, tips, and lessons learned. Whether you're starting from scratch or looking to level up your streaming game, we'll cover essential topics like building an audience, selecting the right platform, creating engaging content, managing mental health, and monetizing your stream. Join us as we explore the highs, lows, and everything in between on the path to turning your passion into a thriving career in the digital world. Whether you're into gaming, lifestyle, music, or vlogging, this podcast will help you find your niche and thrive in the competitive world of social media streaming. Today, we have Jenna Francis with us. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing really good. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Roller coaster of emotions. I'm sure we'll touch on it, but
Yes.
today, fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, yesterday, not so much.
Yesterday was rough.
Yesterday was rough. Actually, the last week was rough. But for those of you guys that don't know, today is January 20th, 2025, and Jenna and I have met on TikTok as our primary streaming platform. Although today I have a feeling we're going to talk about a different platform a little bit.
Sure.
And it's been a journey the last couple of weeks with the roller coaster of emotions associated with TikTok. But before we get there, okay, tell us a little bit about yourself,
Oh,
your journey.
yes. All right. Let's see, most recently, so I do have a podcast here in our home state of Utah called Gardening Utah. So that's kind of my pet side project, mostly for fun situation. That's just centered around gardening, bringing in experts around the state to talk about any deep dive topic. I work as in my day job in e-commerce, so I spend a lot of time behind the scenes of Amazon.com. And prior to that, I did run and start my own e-commerce company in 2008, which was very community driven and social media centered. So I'm sure we can get into that. But I did run that for 12 full years, and then I sold in 2020. So that's just a little bit about me. Overall, though, I my expertise lies around not just e-commerce but digital marketing as a whole. Everything from social media ads to streaming ads on Twitch and everything in between, and really helping advertisers grow their businesses, whether it be on Amazon, which is what I do now, or just driving revenue for an individual brands, which is what I did when I had my e-commerce site, all the way to um, helping advertisers really, drive revenue and build their brands. And that's what I love to do is help others. I love to help others build their brand, whether it's a company or themselves. And most recently, we can cut this out if we need to.
No, you're totally good.
Okay.
Spill it.
All right.
Tell us all,
Yeah. So
all of your dirty secrets and your projects coming up.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure. Okay, so most recently, I did create a live creator network on TikTok, which is one of the reasons why you and I are emotional right now because of the uncertainty with what's happening. But ultimately, if things go our way, I will be hopefully helping build a community of musicians, gardeners, other like minded, community driven creators on TikTok to my agency, which I'm calling Roots Jam Media, which has a lot of hidden meaning, which I could get into if we get that far. But that's kind of up in the air based on what happens with TikTok. But anyway, that's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
So, if you caught most of it, she's a force to be reckoned with. Let me break some of this down because she absolutely underestimated a lot of her accomplishments. First and foremost, her little pet project podcast has over 80 episodes. It is a very well accomplished podcast, which will be linked in the comments below here so you can access and follow, especially if you're into gardening or brand new into the journey. So, I would love to have side pet projects that successful. So let's start with that part, just like how you undermined that. second, when she gave you the little brief history of her background, she neglected to say she is literally one of the OG streamers in the streaming world. I'm talking
Oh,
OG platforms before YouTube, before Twitch, before TikTok and Facebook, and all of that was capable of going live.
that's right. That's right.
She was on the OG live streaming world. So before I ask you about your current primary focus and primary projects, which I believe from our conversations are two, can you tell us a little bit about that OG experience?
Totally. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up because I kind of, yeah, bypassed that entirely. Totally.
Oh, yeah, you like, I'm not even like saying it.
Yeah, so okay, when I built my business, which was called steals.com, which was an e-commerce company, I started with four different communities that had their own websites. So I had babysteals.com, which was all like moms with babies. And what essentially what I would do is I'd highlight a new product every day starting at 8 a.m. Pacific.
OG TikTok shop.
Yeah, yeah, very much like that. And so it was on each individual website. So I had babysteals.com, kidsteals.com, scrapbooksteals.com, which is at the time was a really big thing. And then one that focused just on women's products, which was called shesteals.com. And they were all under the steals.com domain, but every day each one of those websites had a brand and a grouping of that brand's products up for the best price online for 24 hours. And we would spend months in advance. This took a lot of work and a lot of employees, but curating these deals of the day, if you will, and bringing them to light at, like I said, the best price online. And it was very much sort of like QVC, but for the next generation of shoppers. And what I really wanted to build was individual communities behind each website that had passionate people that were not only excited to get a great deal on a great brand and a highly regarded product, but that they knew that when they came to our site, they were with like-minded people and they could chat with a community of, you know, in this case, it was mostly moms. And at the time I was using Facebook, where, you know, this was very new into Facebook's intro when the algorithm was simply the latest and greatest post, right? There wasn't any algorithmic manipulation behind what users would see. It was literally whatever pages they would like and whatever people they followed would show up in the news feed in chronological order, right? And
So guys, this is before Amazon and TikTok Shop and all of that had these hot deals and deals of the day. This is like literally the starting point of a lot of this.
it really was. I mean, there wasn't anything like it at all. There was no Groupon, there was no Zulily, there was literally no other thing like it. And so when we would go live with the new deal of the day, live meaning the website would switch with a new product at 9 a.m. our time in Mountain Time Zone. Um, we would post the deal on Facebook on each individual Facebook page. So I had one for Baby Steals, which was like 390,000 fans, and Kid Steals was like 100,000. Scrapbook Steals had 100,000, and She Steals wasn't far behind. So they all had their own pages and their own communities accordingly. That being said, because the algorithm was what it was, we were able to foster conversation with our community so amazingly. And it would just turned into this, like, first of all, they would nitpick the deal, either they loved it or hated, or you know, people were just real time reviewing this just in Facebook comments, right? And
Hmm.
and then also making friends with one another. And the same group of people would, you know, show up every single day and give their opinion, and people even started to like build rank in our community of like, oh, this lady's like a major baby stealer, I should really listen to her voice or whatever. But that being said, we really had a just an incredible community that built over time. But
And I'm glad you're talking about community because that is a topic that would like to touch on the first time interviewers with our guests here. And so I'm glad that you are already dabbling on the community aspect because a lot of people don't understand the value of importance of fostering community. They think that a social media journey is all about themselves and the streamer, but you are not a streamer without a community.
that's right. That's right. And you know, the one you could kind of go back and forth in that should I have built it for myself or should I have built it for my company? But instead, I didn't ever ask people to follow me. I asked them to follow my businesses. And that way it wasn't about me as an individual. It was about the company, which the company was about them. And I would always remind them, like, we are only Baby Steals and Steals.com because of the community that shows up every single day to buy the products, to communicate about the products, and in turn communicate with one another. I could spend a 3-hour episode just talking about the ways our community would show up for one another over those 12 years. Like incredible.
Hey, don't plant ideas that season 2 and 3 will
There you
like
go.
dive deep into like more of the hot topics of streaming.
Yes, absolutely. And so when we started, there was no such way of like streaming live in the way that we're talking about. But shortly thereafter, because again, I launched in 2008, but like maybe 6 or so months later, I hear about this company called Ustream.tv. And I'm of course like, because I always said the second it is possible, I want to be live on the website and not just showing because when you went to the website, we had beautiful copywriting, beautiful imagery, videography, but there wasn't a person similar to like QVC that was talking live, answering questions dynamically. And so as soon as Ustream came out, I immediately started utilizing it. And before I started more or less going live on our website, which eventually there was a plugin where I could go live on Ustream and then put it on our website. Even though that was very technologically challenging at the time, we didn't do it.
It's still technical, challenging today.
That's true.
Okay.
That's
Let me
true.
tell you, I have been struggling with the multiple streams on a daily basis. So let's not even dive into that.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I would do is on our Facebook communities, I would say, "Hey, today at this time I'm going to go live on this website, which at the time was Ustream, and we're going to talk about X," right? And normally it wasn't anything about shopping. It wasn't anything about, "Oh, here's what's coming up." It was more about, "Here's behind the scenes. Here's your customer service managers that are writing you back and forth when you have questions. What are you guys doing? What do you want to see on the site?" I just literally
So the OG day in the life.
Totally. And I would just bring our community behind the scenes of our company. They got to know our people, and our people got to know them simply through comments, right? Because we're not seeing them necessarily, but you could eventually go and check them out on Facebook, which we did. We became I'm still friends to this day with some of our customers. And
That's wild.
yeah, I mean, really, to this day, all around the world. Well, when I say the world, I'm mostly meaning US and Canada. But that being said, it was so much fun to go live on Ustream and just talk to my audience. And there was some times where we would go for hours and hours and hours on end, and it became sort of like not an addiction, but it was so fun to just feel like we were all this amazing community that I was like, I actually have to go, guys, and get to work, right? I've got employees I got to manage. We've got to make sure we've got steals of the day lined up. We've got warehouses, a product to ship. I've got brands to call. Like the list went on and on.
It is very hard
Yes.
separating those two. It's extremely hard.
It really is. So Ustream was kind of the very first in the gate with technology that allowed us to communicate with customers. So we were doing that, and then that was for a good, more or less, couple years. Now our communities were really big on Facebook, as I mentioned, and so the day that like Facebook came out with Facebook Live, I was literally screaming, jumping up and down for joy. And was able to immediately go live on Facebook. And what was nice about that is I wasn't going on Facebook asking people to leave Facebook to go somewhere else to watch me stream. I was able to say, "Here we are, like, hi guys, no appointment necessary," right? And so that made it a lot easier. And really, we had some massive, massive live streams with I mean, I'm thinking back, like, over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I remember it was all hands on deck shipping product in our warehouse just down by the airport in Salt Lake City, and I would go live while I was packing orders just because even though I wasn't, our warehouse manager or that kind of a thing, but we had a 99.9% same day shipping rate. So if orders, I wouldn't go home, and neither would my CEO at the time, Rhett Clevenger. We would not go home unless all orders were shipped. And so,
That's wild.
yeah, so we would go back into the warehouse. I would turn on Facebook, go live from my desktop, and talk to people as I shipped. And it was just kind of this dual thing where if I'm going to be, I may as well talk to my community and bringing them along at the same time. Sometimes I would even run across an order for one of them while I was talking to them, which would be so wild. So, anyway, lots of fun there.
Sounds very much like what we watch on TikTok Shop live streams nowadays.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
So that's a beautiful journey because that is where you started. You started with this online company that was your baby, and you were like a pioneer in the world of streaming. And then you became a pioneer behind the scenes on the other part of the algorithm. And now you're full circle back with a very successful podcast with a bunch of projects. And now, um, I guess the agency, you would consider that a streaming career, but a streaming career from the management side. That is a journey.
Yeah,
That is a huge journey.
it really is. And another app that came about, they were around for a hot minute, but then sold to X was Periscope. So after
Oh, that's right.
yeah, because Facebook Live wasn't mobile for a while, so I couldn't do it from my mobile phone. So I had to have my desktop. But then Periscope comes out, and it's this incredible app that not was just US based, but it was anywhere in the world. And you could literally go on a map and see dots and go, oh, I want to see what's happening in New York right now. Or I want to go on the beaches of Sydney, Australia, and go to Bondi Beach and see who's streaming from there. And it was very just mobile. It was mobile only, actually. And so I ended up really expanding the business through Periscope. And at the time, got such a big following because I had live streaming to me was a breeze when that came out. It was so new to some, but to me, I was like, I feel weird when I'm not in front of the camera talking to people.
That's how I felt yesterday.
Oh, I bet.
I'm trying to find a new space to go to. It's like after 365 days of streaming,
Ugh,
what happens when you don't?
not
It's weird, strange.
when it's taken away from you.
I
I know
know.
that feeling. And Periscope grew so big so fast, and I was able to go speak at summits that Periscope would put together when they brought in all their top streamers and all those amazing things. And then unfortunately, it sold to X, which turned it into Twitter Live at the time, and they took away sort of the geographic functionalities, and it just became basically killed it for lack of a better word. So that was really sort of from there, I we went kind of back to Facebook to live stream, and there was also an app called Blab, which was incredible. It was desktop
I don't think I've ever used that one.
Oh, it was so great. It was only around for a hot minute, maybe more or less 2 years, but it was very similar to TikTok boxes where the main streamer would start and then you could pull people in from the community, and it was just very conversational driven, but you could have topics. So you could open up Blab and look at the topics on the left-hand side and like,
Interesting.
oh, this room's talking about this and this room's talking about that. So we would actually bring in a whole bunch of our team to do a full what we called a blab about like how we sourced that deal of the day. We did a lot of manufacturing projects with our brands. So, for example, there was a big popular diaper bag company called the Bumble Collection, and they name all of their bags historically after a name. So there even was the Juliana, there was the Jennifer,
Nice.
the
Now I need to go find one just to be an OG like on the wall.
I know, totally. So anyway, they asked me like, "Hey, you've sold, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say through history, I've probably sold at least 25 to well, that's probably a low estimate, but at least 25,000 diaper bags through history." And
Oh, like just 25,000, like the capacity of a small town.
yeah, with lots and lots of different brands, but then I created what I thought was the best diaper bag ever, which was called the Jana. And so there's lots of Jana bags out there in the wild. I see them sometimes at like Costco, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that lady has my diaper bag. That is insane. But it didn't look like a diaper bag. It looked like a beautiful purse that held like, I made it for me. Like,
Well, now I need a Juliana and a Jana bag.
I know, totally.
Great. Where
Totally.
am I going to find these two?
Yeah. So we ended up using Blab to like tell the story behind like, because it wasn't at that point the company was so big, there was a lot more people in my business that had way more to do with what the daily deal was than I did, right? Because at that point I was running the business. I had other, employees and directors of each individual website that were really sort of, they were the brand managers, and they were the ones that, over the years were curating what the daily deals were and making the deals with the brands. And so I would bring them in and let them sit and talk to our customers about like, hey, here's how this project came about. Here's the history. Here's the story. This is why we love it. So that was really neat too. But unfortunately, live streaming apps really have a hard time sticking around because they're very, very expensive on the back end too.
As we know of this week.
Yes, exactly. And so anyway, yeah. So that's and then I sold and that
And now you're back doing both. You have your content, so you're curating daily content on your own. You're simultaneously doing your podcast, your TikTok shop, while teaching others from the agency side. And so now you're curating other people's content,
yeah.
and you're back at a full circle, except now you're juggling both acts simultaneously, which is a huge, huge accomplishment.
Isn't that wild?
And so it is wild. And for me to have the opportunity to learn from a master,
Oh,
oh,
geez.
it's tremendous. Y'all, this is such an honor and privilege. You guys have no idea. With that being
So
said,
kind.
do you have a memorable challenge that you have faced in this journey of developing a thriving online community?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, first of all, the hardest thing is what you know very well is how do you manage a random troll that comes in, and a random troll, I'm not talking about bots because those are, relatively easy to have a mod delete, etc. And bots didn't exist back when I was doing all of this. So that was a problem that was not in place with bots. Um, but trolls. So, let's say it's a website that maybe decided to compete with us and decided to come in and just
Mm,
make us look bad, or the list goes on and on. Or my gosh, I'll never forget one time that a big fan base of ours was in Canada. And more or less maybe 32% of our business was shipping up north. And it was very expensive to do so. A 5 pound package in the US is expensive enough to ship, but try to send it into another
yes.
country, have it go through duties and customs. It was a nightmare. And at the time, not the reason our business was so big with Canada is that nobody was shipping up there from the US. Like nobody wanted to because it was so expensive and logistically costly and time consuming and really difficult.
Oh gosh, I lived in Alaska. It's part of the US. It's a state and still was logistically a nightmare.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, when you're just, I don't mean to say just, but when you're an online shopper and you don't understand all the things on the back end that have to happen to make certain things go, it is easy to say, wait a minute, this is $25 shipping. That's ridiculous. That's the same price as the product. And it's like, well, it is ridiculous and I have no control over that. You know what I mean? But a
Hmm.
lot of times when, this is before people got really used to shipping, cost of shopping online. I'm not saying online shopping was new when I started, but it wasn't as widespread and vast. And so I felt like a lot of the like shock and awe around like, whoa, it really costs that much to ship, was just sort of, that's where people were learning to online shop. And so it was like, wait a minute. So that was really hard to manage when I would go live, is like to keep a happy face and talking about what I'm talking about, but then also not only reading the comments, but reading the negative comments and acknowledging them in a way that's professional and appropriate without making them mad or, making, getting into an argument, because it's so easy to take things personally.
So easy.
And I've seen you do it amazing. Like,
Sometimes, sometimes I fail.
well, we all fail, but I mean, that's, I would say, through the years of live streaming, one of the hardest things because, um, you know, and some people have a very valid point, but that is the other nice thing about it in a way is it gives you a chance. I'd almost rather have it happen live than in a comment section because you can actually add context and say,
Yes,
okay,
100%.
yeah,
Because on the comment, you only have like what, 250 characters or something to
exactly.
be able to like respond, and everything is taken out of context.
Yeah, totally. And so I think if anything, I would always try to turn a negative comment into a reason and realizing that okay, the company's not trying to screw us over. They literally this is it just is what it is and they acknowledge that it's expensive, but we have a choice to purchase or not. And at least we have that choice because most companies won't even give us a choice type of a thing. And Canada, the beautiful thing about that is, they get a year maternity leave. And
Oh, that is beautiful.
yes, and so with that, online shopping, things to do, you're holding your newborn and you get, it's fun to get locked into a community when you have time to breathe and take care of your, babies and all that fun stuff. And so Canadians are very, very passionate about everything. And I love that about them. And that also sometimes poses some challenges, but, I,
With everything.
yeah,
So, talk before we navigate away from the trolls, because I think that is such an important topic. And I always mention this on the lives, and I talk about this on previous episodes. Um, Going live is takes a lot of courage, and dealing with trolls, it's inevitable. It will happen. And so if tough skin is not developed, then it may be a journey that you might want to take it slower. And I don't mean shy away from it. You just have to really be introspective about the whole entire process, because it's not something that is preventable.
absolutely.
And so, it will happen. It's not a matter of if, it's definitely a matter of when and how often. I have permanent trolls. I don't even know if I call them trolls at this point anymore, if I call them stalkers or if I call them fans, that come in on a daily basis just to be nasty. But at this point, like, what do you do? So, what is your strongest or best advice on managing this particular um, challenge?
So a lot of times, each medium is a little bit different with the type of trolls that come in. But with TikTok specifically, I think a lot of times when the trolls come out, they want attention. They're only saying what it is that they're saying because they want acknowledgement, and for whatever reason, they may not be getting it any other way. Not necessarily with
Agreed.
the live, but within just life in general. And so um, I think my advice to you, and you already do it automatically. Your streams are different in that you're teaching. So you turn a troll into a teaching moment to teach other people how to deal with trolls, right?
Yes, I
Whereas,
try.
yeah, exactly. Whereas other people, I honestly feel like I know that humans can get attached to drama and sort of like, ooh, and it keeps people watching. And I think the advice kind of depends on what you're streaming about, right? If you're
That's such a good point.
if you're a gamer and you are you're playing Halo Infinite and people are just giving each other smack anyway, then a troll is a troll and you just literally give it right back, like, in the same language or whatever, because it is what it is and that's what gamers do in many cases. But if you're, wholesome and you're home cooking and you're maybe making pasta or something and teaching people and someone comes in and is just mean, literally ignore and delete because it's not adding anything. And I guess the biggest question I would say is, as a streamer, ask yourself is what is in it for me to acknowledge this person, right? And
Yeah, where's the value behind?
yeah. Well, when I say what is in it for me, what is in it for the rest of the people who are watching me because of whatever I'm doing for them. I'm either teaching them, I'm entertaining them. If it's entertainment, go for it. Keep it entertaining, right? If that's the tone
Mhm.
of your chat. But if you're teaching and anything, gardening, it doesn't matter. If you're teaching, then you know I would say let it go, just ignore, don't acknowledge them because eventually they'll give up, especially if they're blocked and deleted, right? So I think my advice is kind of different based on the type of stream that you do. But just
That's such an important advice, and I say that all the time in my streams. I'm always like, "Tell me about." I always go into deeper questions when somebody asks me a question because none of these advices are just a blanket statement for everyone. There's different levels of streamers. There's different type of streams. So you have to take whatever we're saying and adapt it to what kind of content you're creating.
That's right. And is it going to add anything? Whether the tone is negative, is it going to add to the content of what's being talked about or not? For example, if someone is somebody making fun of a physical attribute, like people would say all the time to me, I have one eyebrow that just points when I talk. I cannot help it. It's just muscles in my forehead. I'm sure I could get Botox to make it stop. But when I get talking, like right now, I can feel it. My eyebrow just goes into like one of them, just kind of
I call it the teacher eye.
yeah.
What are you talking about? That is like my flickering left eye when I get stressed.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a physical attribute that you don't know or acknowledge when you're in the moment and you're talking and presenting or speaking or whatever. And so,
Or how my toddler pokes my forehead on my birthmark and asks me, "What is this?"
oh, yeah, so it's like if they're making fun of like if it's not productive in that way, they're just literally making fun of you or you're ugly or your hair looks bad or whatever, then like literally just ignore. They're not adding anything to the conversation. And so I just turn it around and think, is this going to be beneficial for the people that I'm speaking with? Yes or no? And that's I think, the biggest thing there. And sometimes I would say, "Oh, yep, you're right. My eyebrow totally does turn into a triangle when I talk. What else do you have to say about it?" Um, or sometimes I would just completely ignore it. Just kind of depends on when it. So that would be my biggest advice is just think about your community and who it is you're speaking with and is this valuable to their time or not?
And in addition to the community, think of the platform
Oh,
because every platform has different regulations.
yeah.
So there's platforms that you can absolutely engage, and there's platforms that if you engage, you become reportable, and then your stream gets taken down. And there's platforms that are 18 and over. So be conscious too that the spaces you choose to enter are very different. What you can do on Clapper today is absolutely different than what you can do on TikTok or YouTube or Bigo, and the list goes on. Oh gosh, after this past week, the list is ginormous. There is Flip and Twitch and Instagram and Threads and
Y-
Favorited and Featured and Octopus and Neptune. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah,
You have to understand your platform and wherever you choose to stream.
that's right. That's right. That's excellent advice for sure. And yeah, like I said, with Twitch has trolls all the time. That's what they do, right? But
Yeah.
you do see a lot of comments get deleted and that kind of a thing. I'm not intimately familiar with Twitch's policies around those lines, but it's just kind
I
of
watch
knowing
a
that
lot of YouTube about Twitch, if that makes sense. I watch a lot of YouTubers going to Twitch to troll and create YouTube content,
yeah, that's true.
if that makes sense.
That's
Or
true.
counter troll. Like
Right.
my 12-year-old makes me watch this creator that actually will find trolls and then crash their streams on Twitch and troll them back and then bring them into YouTube because they're a massive anti-troll troll.
Oh my
If that even
gosh, it totally makes sense. Yes.
So we watch a lot of that, which is really interesting, just the dynamic of using one platform to engage in another platform to create content.
Yeah.
But before I go into platforms, because I do want to ask like your favorite or where you are right now, so you can do a little bit of a pitch for your content. I know that you talked about a challenging, memorable moment. Now, tell me about a like happy, I'm screaming and jumping up and down. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened, or I can't believe I just got interviewed here, or I can't believe I was in Good Morning America. Um, I can't believe, moment. And tell me about your memorable moment that you want to share today.
Interesting. I'm trying to think. So, you mean while I was streaming or just because I
Or about your social media journey.
Okay, yeah. So
Like a moment that you were like, aha,
yeah.
I succeeded, or whatever.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a few of those. Let's see. The first one that usually comes to mind, and actually almost all of them relate to an experience in Canada. Um, Interestingly enough, I'm not sure why, but there was one particular time. This actually goes back to Canadians being upset that Canadians being upset that shipping cost a lot. There was one of our Canadian fans that was a total joker. I knew she was joking when she posted it, but she went to our Facebook page and said, shipping is so expensive today. And she was actually making fun of other Canadians that were, she was like trolling, but I knew she wasn't trolling. She was trolling the trolls. But essentially said, shipping is so expensive today that George Clooney would have to hand deliver it to my door for me to even spend this much. And I was like, okay, I know she's joking. So we just kind of laughed it off, right? Whatever. And then it gave me an idea. I thought, hand deliver. Would that be insane if we like hand delivered some customers' orders? Like, how funny would that be? And the
That is awesome.
Yeah, so I'm like, and how funny would it be in Canada? Well, so all these things started to fall into place where that very day, another Canadian fan messaged me personally and said, hey, we're doing a Baby Steals meetup at my house in Surrey, BC. And we've got about 40 moms that are coming. Would you want to Skype in as like a surprise and just talk to just 40 of us? And I'm like, no problem. I think that would be amazing. And then when I hung up from that call, I was like, wait a minute. What if I actually go?
Oh my
And
gosh.
then I was like, oh, what if I go and then I hand deliver? And then it was like, oh, and what if all these ideas just started happening. And so then a tour of Western Canada was planned that evening, where for 2 weeks, because it usually took 2 weeks for orders to get to Canada, even though in the US you'd get your order in like two.
Yeah, that's standard Alaska delivery. It's about 2 weeks, even right now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I knew that I had about 2 weeks to pull it off. So I started mapping out where customers live because, of course, I have their address. And so when certain orders would come in, I could sort by city, and I just would recognize names from our community on Facebook. And it was like, oh, I know her, I know her, I know her, I know her, I know her. Okay, how far? And so we just started mapping out. And so instead of shipping their order, we would go into the system and manually mark it as shipped and hope that they didn't ask for tracking. Um,
Oh my God.
and then I would just literally put it in a bag. So fast forward, me and my CEO flew to Canada with a massive suitcase, well, several suitcases filled with their orders. And I had this fully mapped out tour, which started with showing up at this particular Baby Steals meetup, quote unquote. And so I worked with the lady who, and she still is a friend to this day, but I worked with her to like, she's kept saying, okay, well, we're going to Skype with Jana at noon. But instead I rang the doorbell instead of, you know,
Oh my gosh, I have so many ideas now.
it was
So many ideas.
seriously so freaking fun. And then all of a sudden, all these faces that you see on the screen and in comments become real humans that you're hugging and shaking hands with and making lifelong friends with and seeing their babies. And they have all the products they bought from us. And it was literally insane. So that was fun. So we started with that, and then we started hand delivering orders. Well, anyway, I remember, I'll never forget sitting outside this lady's house when we were that same night. That wasn't at the meetup. We drove to a different part of Canada. We went to deep into Vancouver, and I was sitting out with this tiny little. She bought what's called baby legs. They're just little leggings for babies. And
Oh my gosh.
and I was like, it's dinner time, and I'm sitting in a car that I rented. I flew 3 flights today into another country to hand deliver something that literally cost less than $10 a ship. She's going to think I'm literally insane. This is the dumbest idea ever. And she's not even going to know who the heck I am. She's going to be like, who are you? You're not a delivery service, right? So I'm like, and she's not going to know. I didn't think she'd know my CEO because he was really behind the scenes doing all the technical, businessy, logistical stuff, right? Making everything work. And I didn't think that she would know who he was either, but here we are. And I said, Rhett, this was the stupidest idea we've ever had. We have a car filled with orders that should have shipped 2 weeks ago. They have no tracking numbers. And I'm going to go knocking on their doors and handing it to them. Anyway, he's like, look, we came this far. You planned this out a lot. Let's just at least go ring the doorbell.
Oh my gosh, please tell me you have this recorded somewhere in your
There actually is a YouTube video that kind of highlights a little bit of our Canadian. Our This was the Western Canadian. We also did an Eastern Canadian, which was
We're
equally
gonna
really.
have to share this on the Discord for the folks that are subscribers to be able to have this sneak peek of this story.
It's literally hilarious. Anyway, he's like, we came this far. Just come knock on the dang door. It's only one person. Who cares if she thinks we're dumb? So we go knock on the door, and I hear like dinner forks like clanking on the plates, like, oh, who's here? I'm like, oh no, we're interrupting their dinner, for God's sakes. I don't know what to do. So anyway, she comes to the door and her eyes pop open and she says, Jana and Rhett, what in the world are you doing outside of Utah?
You ain't in Kansas anymore.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, A, she knows who we are. And she recognized us, and she doesn't think we're insane because she was so happy. She was like, you are kidding me. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so that was really kind of a reiteration of like, okay, this is really dumb. This is the type of thing a bigger, more publicly funded company would never ever do. But it really was just a reiteration of like, okay, live streaming allowed for her to feel like she knew us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you meet in person, you're BFFs, right?
Oh my gosh, that is such an amazing story. And I'm not even going to say that half of my questions, I'm going to read the questions as a joke, but like literally everything I had planned out, it's almost like, and y'all, by the way, I did not send her the questions ahead of schedule. She is like hitting on point the key things that I'd like you guys to focus and have different perspectives on for this season. For example, how important is community to you?
Ah,
Like, are you kidding me?
everything.
And have you made any lasting friendships through streaming? Well, there goes that one too. Check it.
Amazing.
Like literally, I'm looking at my questions around. I'm like, well, check mark that one.
Yeah.
Check mark that one. And what role do you think streamers play into shaping communities?
Oh
Well,
gosh. Wow.
you can tackle a little bit that one in more detail, but you've already said, well, communities right there.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'll give another quick example that happened with Periscope. So with Periscope, it was a little less business to consumer, meaning I wasn't necessarily using Periscope to talk to my audience because I had already asked them to follow me through multiple apps, right? Come to Facebook. Oh wait, now go to Ustream. Oh wait, now Facebook again. And it was like, so with Periscope, I was like, I'm not going to be showing deals of the day on Periscope very much. But what I will show is like behind the scenes of the life of Jana, right? And I really used it more as a business to business. I used it to secure better relationships and understand other product creators, right? Through Periscope, I was able to bring new products to Steels as, business opportunities that greatly impacted their business, etc. But I got to talk about a streamer in Australia. So I made friends through Periscope with a streamer in Australia. It was his name was Chocolate Johnny. He owns Perfection Chocolates in Rose Bay.
Oh, that's
In
now I'm hungry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
in Rose Bay in Sydney. And I say this as I'm looking at chocolates he literally mailed me for Christmas. He sent me an Australia Frecky.
Well, I'll be over sometime next week.
I know, totally. So we make friends through Periscope where, I loved watching him make candy in Sydney, Australia. And he would even, when he's making what they call maccas, which are maccas and hot chocolates and other things for their customers, he would just set up his live stream and show people what was happening at Rose Bay in Sydney, Australia. And not only were we able to do business together, just I don't even remember at this point what it was that we sold. I think caramel. He made some caramels and mailed them up to us, whatever. But just friends on the business side that like can help check you, like people who are equal to you with regard to like business experience and level to say, hey, here's how we ought to work together, or here, no, like mentors type situation, right?
Hmm.
And then not only that, but that will support your lives, where it's
Correct.
like when you go live, they're like, they see it and they're like, oh, I'm going to go in and like you say, boobity boopers and chat movers, like they come in to support you in a positive way, whether it has anything to do with them or not. And
Sometimes we can't even listen, but we're there. We're like booping without even like having a headphone on,
yeah,
Or sometimes you plug it in while you're showering and you just let it run. Or
absolutely.
like right now, I have my YouTube running to complete those hours, and there's 7 people that have been sitting there since 3 o'clock in the morning today, and that stream is still going. There's no one on camera. You can't see people. You only see a Hello Kitty wall, but there's 7 folks that somehow are still diligently. I'm looking at it right now, sitting there.
Those are going to be your Hello Kitty fans right there.
Right? They're at the end of that 555 minutes, they're going to be shopping and then subliminal messages all the way across.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, so rounding out the story with particularly just with Chocolate Johnny is lifelong friends. Friends to this day, huge advocates of one another's business, social media content. He actually was also chosen to speak at the Periscope Summit. So they flew him one year to San Francisco and another year to New York. So both years we
Oh,
were
wow.
speakers and both years we hung out and were able to, meet in person. He has completely supported my daughter through a lot of cool things where he would, which at the time she was like 12 and Periscope didn't have any rules about kids. And so a lot of people just loved Jane, my daughter who's now 18. But so he would just send special treats to her for Christmas, and on her birthday, he sent her this like just amazing, amazing things. And she's even considering going down and doing like an internship there in Australia. And now I
Oh,
know,
wow.
Australia, by the way, has great streamers. He's just
Yes.
one example, but there are, I can think of 10 other friends. Some have even come and stayed with me here in the States when they visit the States, only that I met through live streaming.
That is awesome. And by the way, y'all, we met through a live stream
Yes,
and we've met in person already.
that's right.
And it's amazing when you get the opportunity to meet folks in real life too and get that deeper level connection that you probably wouldn't have gotten although we live relatively close, I would say. Um, it's a big world out there. What are the odds?
That's right.
Or maybe the odds were in your favor, but maybe not,
Yeah. Well,
you know?
and you experienced this with me where I was used to experiencing the opposite in that when you're the streamer and you've got all the people that are watching you and then they're typing to you, they get to know you really well. They get to know your mannerisms and the way you word things and on and on, right? They very familiar with
Hmm.
you as a person, but you don't know all you know is the way they type and that's a
Exactly.
good memory to go, oh, that lady usually talks like this or that lady does that or this guy does this. And so when you meet them in person as a streamer, at first you're like, okay, is this kind of like, are you legit? And I remember when you and I were messaging before you came over, I was like, how do I prove to her like I'm not a weirdo?
I mean, I was the same way. I was like, okay. So when
Yeah.
she sent me the address to meet, my weird self was like, well, let me share my location so that way you don't feel left out that you are the only one sharing your location.
But like you were very generous along those lines because I was like, I hope she realizes like I'm not a weirdo. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that our communities of people that watch us are weirdos, but there are weirdos in the world and there's weirdos on the internet. And so it is kind of like it's a strange feeling when you meet
Listen, my
someone.
husband is in law enforcement. You always have to take care and be careful.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yes. And so
Doxing is a thing.
yeah, but what's funny for me is when I would meet people, I didn't really know anything about them necessarily other than the words that they would say and maybe how many orders they were had done and what I would remember things about them from them typing, but I've never seen them in person and know their mannerisms and that kind of a thing.
And I've never watched you live stream. I only know you, like you said, from the chat, from us talking in person, but from your content. I knew your shop videos. I know the products you like to buy. I know the things you like to grow. I knew that you had chickens, because I want chickens.
Yeah.
And so my side is us when I get to learn people that come into my chat, I almost feel like I'm a sleuth, like I'm snooping through their stuff to so when they come back into my stream, I can give them a feedback and be like personal, like you said, fostering communities.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of time to do that. But I try, that is one of the things that I try to do is when I start recognizing people in my chat, when I see consistency, when I see people coming back and supporting, whether they're commenting, sharing, gifting, etc. I try to learn about their content. And I remember thinking, you particularly have a towel warmer
Oh,
that I
yeah.
have. And I remember thinking, see, Mr. HK, it wasn't a silly purchase. Look how many people agree. And because you have a really high number on that
Oh,
post.
yeah, that
And I remember thinking, I'm connecting with this person. This person doesn't even realize that I'm connecting with them on the purchase of a similar product because we created similar content.
yeah,
And that in itself is mind blowing if you really think about the psychology behind that.
it really is. Oh my gosh, totally. Wow.
So we're getting close to, like, we still have a little bit of time, but before we run out of time, one, I'd like to pluck out of you a moving forward tip or a handful of tips, and then I want to make sure that you pitch your current projects.
Okay. Well, I mean, the my day job really, I really isn't anything to pitch in that, um, I spend my days negotiating with Amazon to get deals and placements for the big brands that we work with on different parts around Amazon. Um, but so my day job is very, along those lines. But I will also what I also do there is affiliate marketing, and so I find big influencers. And when I say big, I'm more meaning like people way bigger than like me, like I'm not even an influencer. My company was, but you know what I mean? Like with
Hmm.
their own massive social media channels, big YouTubers to do very large deals to then create content for some of our brands and products to then link to Amazon to create sales. So I'm on the hunt for influencers a lot. So always open to being reached out to from people to say, hey, I'm on the Amazon affiliate program. Who are your brands? And I can direct people to say, well, feel free to go look through our stores on Amazon. And here are the,
And we'll put all her contacts on the comments on the stream on the podcast, so you will have all the information that she's going to share of how to find her.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's another podcast we could do one day is like affiliate marketing and like how a content creator, a content creator and an influencer to me are two completely different things because you can be a
Yes,
content creator and still reach out to a brand without being an influencer. Um,
that's correct.
And so we're brands are always looking for both. And it's just a matter of what you say and how you say it that's going to either land you an agreement or a deal or even a free product or not. And so that's a lot of what I do behind the scenes there. And that may be eventually a little bit of a community that I try to build on TikTok where I kind of help people in the Amazon Associates program with the right way to reach out to brands. I don't know. I've done a few videos along those lines only because it was my pet peeve that day where I'm like, oh no, these people are making.
I think that would be fabulous, especially since your primary account now it is an agency account. So in theory, you could have a personal account, and your personal account could. But that's me, TikTok speaking,
Yes,
TikTok teacher mindset.
exactly.
Conversation for another day.
Well, and yeah, I just got to say, I've learned everything I know about TikTok from you, my dear, because I don't know how I stumbled across you. I don't even know. It's probably insomnia and waking up at 4 a.m. And I'm like, oh, she's got green hair or whatever. And the wig just catches my eye. And then I was like,
The
oh,
wig is catching.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, this chick knows what's up. Like, she knows what is going on. And you were giving the real advice straight from what TikTok says instead of all these dumb viral videos on TikTok that say, oh, you got to do this and do that and do this and do that. And everything I was doing to try to get into TikTok shop was wrong. Now, I will say, I wanted to get into TikTok shop, not necessarily because I'm like, I'm going to become a TikTok shop affiliate, but because for my career, my job, I need to know how that works, right? And
Hmm.
and I had set up one of the very first TikTok shops, actually myself and Rhett, in it's a long story there, but we did set up one of the first TikTok shops, but then didn't have anything to do on the content side with like how we set it all up, but then didn't continue with the influencer portion. So I always like to be on the other side so that I can relate to both sides. And so that was my main reason for doing TikTok shop. Um,
I know the feeling.
yeah, exactly. And so but yeah, all the tips and tricks that you'd see in the videos on TikTok were junk. But then I hit your live and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything she's saying makes total sense with the algorithm, what you should and shouldn't do. And so I immediately started like stopping doing what you would see people say to do and just following what you said. I was in a week and a half.
Let's go. That's wild.
Totally, totally. And I even did a video before I knew you. Um,
You sent me that video. I was like, no kidding. She's like, yeah, this girl. And I was like, yeah, I'm this girl.
exactly. And then I tagged you in the comments and stuff, and I'm like, I hope she doesn't think I'm weird. But again, that's before we met.
No, no. It's awesome. It's always good to have positive. A lot of folks spend a lot of time with the negativity and it's so easy for you to blast.
Yeah.
But oftentimes there's not a lot of folks that spend time giving credit where credit is due
So
and giving gratitude to where sources come from. And I'll tell you, y'all, in the last month and a half, I had learned more from this woman about affiliate and branding yourself as a creator and as an influencer than from any other source. And so it goes right back. Like, I literally landed my first brand deal last week because of her help.
oh,
Like, I had never imagined myself as an influencer until then.
aw. I love
And so there's always room to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just happy that, the pendulum swung both ways. That I was able to you gave me value, I was able to give you value, and that's what
But that's how most relationships should go. And that leads us to the very last question. What's the last standing advice, tip, thing moving forwards that you want to leave everyone hanging with? Whether it is a quote that means a lot to you, whether it's just like a way of living.
yeah, I'm just gonna say 4 words: push the damn button. Go live.
That's a damn good advice.
Go live. I'm telling you, it will change your life. Period.
Period.
Yep.
Like yeah, push the damn button. Listen, we're gonna talk offline, but I have merch ideas. Push the damn button.
That's right.
You know, you heard it first, y'all, from Jana, not from me. That push that damn button.
That's right.
And with that being said, Jana, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I do look forward for some of the episodes. I would like to do a bonus episode on Amazon affiliate, especially with everything going on with TikTok. I think now more than ever, people have to branch out and expand their opportunities for growth and not put all their eggs in one basket. And that knowledge is priceless.
Yeah.
And so I would like to definitely take an opportunity for that. Guys, in the comments, I will put on the description all of her social media handles, all of the stuff where you're going to find her and how to contact Jana for further information. One of the safe places for you to find her is on my live streams in the morning
That's
towards the end of the stream because y'all, no one deserves to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning in Utah. And we are in the same time zone. So around 6 a.m. Utah time, which is 8 a.m. Eastern Standard, you will find Jana in my chat. So if you want it, it's almost every single day. My girl's there asking good questions. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely day. Thank you so much, Jana, for your time. And I look forward to sharing future episodes with everyone. If you're not a subscriber yet, please hit that subscribe button. And I'd like to thank our first sponsored, Blue Sky Clayworks, which is the Hello Kitty brand. Yay! And looking forward to future sponsors. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank